It's Wednesday, January the 4th, and we're back for episode 4 of the 2023 Monster Energy Supercross preview videos on Vital MX, presented by our friends at Yoshimura. This is a big episode, it's a bumper episode, you could say. We are previewing the 250 West class, which, for the first time maybe in history, we actually have a really good idea of who is going to be on the starting line in Angel Stadium this coming weekend, which, although it sounds like the most simple thing ever, that really is a novelty, and we should take a minute's silence to acknowledge the fact that we know this information.
Especially the fact that we know the Pro Circuit team. When they made their announcement, I thought the world was ending.
And the fact that you just spoke made me realise that I never introduced that that's Michael Lindsay, and I, Lewis Phillips, am your host once again for episode 4 of this little series thing that we are doing. One thing that we do know as well, we can universally agree on, is the fact that Jett Lawrence enters the 250 West class as the clear favourite to win the title. Really, there's not that much to say here. He is the favourite to win. We all expect him to win. If he doesn't win, that'll be a surprise, and we're on to the next rider, I guess.
He's got to be the clearest title favorite that's ever been a clear title favorite.
That would be an interesting feature to run through the most sure thing titles in history. But first, he's got to win this. And barring himself, barring a mistake in his own hands, him crashing, getting injured, even a bike problem, do you see another way that he loses this championship?
No.
Okay, I guess we move on because I really have nothing else to say about Jett other
We're
than
in
that.
agreement.
I am very excited to see Austin Faulkner this year. I would put him as definitely Jett's biggest rival, greatest threat. Obviously, there's a massive asterisk there. He has to stay healthy, which has been troublesome for him. Will he be able to do that? Time will tell. There's no way to predict that. But I do think that he will be closer to Jett in speed than most people give him credit for. I think he will be stronger than most people give him credit for. And I do think, after just saying that Jett is 100% going to win this thing, I do think it will be a little more of a race than people imagine.
I was kind of curious about them putting Austin on this because I didn't know after the prior instance would they want to separate them. But at the same time, he is one of the only guys I think we're going to talk about here who we truly say can battle Jett a little bit night in, night out. While I'm still saying Jett's the champion, I think Faulkner can make it interesting, can at least make it not a runaway and can have some good moments in there and keep the fans happy because, I mean, we're going to talk about a few other guys here, but if Austin wasn't racing this coast against Jett, I would be really concerned about the entertainment value of these races.
And let's be honest, Faulkner did limited races indoors last year, but the races that he did do, he was right there. There were no 9th places. He was always in the mix right there, not nipping at Jett's heels, but at least in the same picture, which is what you need to be to challenge someone for a title.
The other thing with the PC team, again, that just shocks me is the fact that they've announced already makes me so worried, just being the person that's a little, if somebody says, hey, I haven't broke my collarbone, then you do it the next day. The fact that the PC team has announced their lineup makes me wonder, oh man, are they going to make it day one healthy?
I think this is the year that Faulkner breezes through it without any issues. And if anyone at PC heard me say that, they're probably screaming because I maybe have just jinxed it massively. But I operate on the assumption that, like, for instance, Tomac, we mentioned in episode 1 that he's been healthy for so long. In my mind, I'm like, well, that has to end at some point, and he's due an injury. Equally, I look at someone like Faulkner and I'm like, well, his streak of bad luck has to end at some time.
He's due season.
A solid injury-free season.
And the other thing for him that is going to make this so much more interesting, or I think better for him, is up until a couple months ago when we found out the rule was changing, a lot of the talk around Faulkner has been, this is it, he's done, because if he had one halfway decent year, he was pointing out on the old rule. Now he can race again after the season. He no longer is going to have to bump to a 450 after how he does this season.
It's funny. I truly believe that this 250 West class is the deepest regional class for 250 Supercross in some time. I feel like we have got 95% of the heavy hitters on the West, which is great. Anaheim 1 is going to be amazing. But somehow I feel like the class is really predictable because I have Jett winning, I have Faulkner second, and I think the McAdoo is going to be the 3rd best rider right there. I would almost put money on those 3 riders filling the podium at 75% of the races.
I would agree with that, especially with Austin and Jett. The only one I would push off on that is one of the riders we'll talk about is Levi Kitchen. I think is capable of dismantling McAdoo for that third spot, and of course also the fact that Cameron just still has his moments every once in a while, but it is really hard to see Jett and Austin not on the podium every round. Barring a crash from either of them, I would not be shocked if they literally, the two of them are on the podium in some shape or form at every round.
Help me understand Kitchen, because I'm not there at all. I don't like that you just brought him up as displacing McAdoo. I don't like that at all. I don't like the fact that we're even talking about him in this breath. I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't feel it. I don't understand. Help me.
It's a belief.
I'm in the kitchen.
It's like a religion at this point.
I'm in the kitchen. I've got my chef's hat on, and I have no idea why or what I'm doing here.
No, trust me. Now that I have to explain it, I'm like, I'm really questioning myself.
What is the explanation? Like,
it's just watching the guy ride. Like, I believe a lot in his talent and ability on the bike in Supercross, but at the same time, he is basically a rookie all over again. So
yeah, that's not enough for me.
We're swinging on hopes and a prayer here, man.
The hype is too high. For him to live up to the expectations is difficult because it has gotten out of hand. I am here on planet Earth. The rest of you crazy people are in Mars.
So you're saying we're on Mars if we just think he can get on the podium a couple times?
No, I think you're talking higher than that.
No, I said dismantling McAdoo, so thirds. I'm talking about thirds.
But I feel like the hype is higher than that. I feel like that is playing the hype down very low.
I do agree with you. I feel like I'm on the like towards the lower end of the hype where I'm trying to be realistic, but I definitely have seen the hype where it's like, without thinking this through, I feel like some people think he's going to beat Jett.
Yes, that is what I feel is the general consensus out there.
My chef hat is not that big, okay?
I think that a realistic thing to look at is he will be on the podium at 2 rounds. He will be 5th and 6th a lot. Mm-hmm. He will end 5th in a championship, and that's okay. But you crazy people out there, and there'll be some of you in the comments, are saying that he's going to win everything ever in history, both past, present, and future, and I'm just not quite there. Shockingly, I'm not there. But I don't see it. I don't understand it. I don't get it, and I'm not sure I ever will. So I guess we'll move on from that because there's not much else to say. That really got out of hand. What I do see and what I do understand and what I do get is Styles Robertson. I think he is going to be, and we're kind of guessing here because Star haven't fully confirmed their West Coast riders. I feel like Kitchen is a sure thing for the West because that's been a consistent rumour.
Yeah.
Robertson's been a consistent rumour for the last couple of weeks. There was Thrasher talks, and maybe Robertson won't end up West. But either way, I have him tipped as the biggest surprise, the biggest breakthrough, all of those things in the 250 class this year. I think he is massively underrated, and he will be better than Kitchen in 250 West if they're both in that class.
In his 2 years in Supercross, his results have been really solid for a guy that has had to line up at Supercrosses with being like his hip issue last year and stuff. Okay, ride a bike for like 2 days and go race the first round of Supercross and run inside like podium at Daytona in a couple rounds into the series. He's had really good results for somebody that has not had a real off season to get ready for. I think it's an interesting one because I feel like as an amateur, he was kind of one of those guys that he had solid results on minis, but big bikes, he was hurt a lot. He didn't really have a lot of hype coming into pros. And I really feel like for as little time as he's had to get prepared, he has overperformed. And I think now with a true offseason in his belt and at Star, I think he'll really shine through what he's capable of.
I would be disappointed if he doesn't win a main because I think he is capable and I think that will happen. No? I felt like that wasn't even a bold claim.
Ooh, the win. What's the version of a chef hat for Styles you're wearing over there?
I don't know, but it would be something, I guess.
Looking a little quiet over there.
Okay.
No, I'm on the podium train. I think
West Coast is tough. If he was on East Coast, which is a lot lighter, he would win a main event there.
There, I'm with you there.
Okay.
I just think, again, if it's not Jett, it's going to be Austin. Okay, Styles could win a main if Jett and Austin collide midair over a triple again.
Just Jett. Jett is the issue for all of these riders looking to win a main because he could potentially win them all. Yeah. But I think that Styles is definitely entering that conversation as a main event winner, whereas maybe in the past we weren't quite there.
Now, what about one of the only other guys in the field? I think it is the only other guy in the field that hasn't won a main event. And last year was his first time winning a main event.
Who are you talking about? Hampshire?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it will be fine. I think that he will run around the McAdoo, Kitchen, Robertson group. I think that, again, the expectations are that he needs to win and he needs to be a title contender. I don't see that happening, which is fine because I don't think that should happen. I think he'll run around on the cusp of the podium. He'll be there or thereabouts, and it will be much of what we've seen for years now.
Do you feel like Hampshire is one of those guys that the expectations or the hype has been a little high each year? Because I even remember coming into last season, people on his coast were labeling him as a title contender. I was like, he hadn't even won a main event ever in his career at that point. And I heard people throwing him out there as a title contender.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. No, but that is kind of that was what popped to mind as you were saying that, because of course people are labeling him as more of a title contender because it's comes down to the fact that he is a veteran. He's been there, done that, seen it. So when you're talking about guys like Kitchen and Robertson, naturally your brain pushes you to go, well, Hampshire's at least been around, so he's more of a safe bet.
Yep.
So I think that's where it comes from, because it has been much of the same for a very long time. So I don't see why much of the same would now change. I guess the only thing to throw in there is he was so unhappy with the bike last year that maybe if he's happier this year, that does give him a bump. Mm-hmm. But is it going to be enough of a bump to beat Jett or Faulkner? I really doubt it. But again, maybe people like you, with your crazy hype machines, are pushing for that.
I'm not on that hype machine right now. But I got one more for you before we move on to our dark horses. It's kind of a question mark person for me, somebody that I feel like there's going to be a lot of speculation or a lot of watching very carefully what he's doing because he's in contract year. He's on a big team. Max Volan.
For some reason, although it is a big year, it is a contract year, and it is getting to that time where we should all be watching him with a keen eye and judging him harshly. For some reason, I still view him as so fresh and such a rookie. Maybe because he got injured in his rookie year, so that's a strike. I still kind of feel like I'm in the phase where I won't judge him on what he does. Me not judging him doesn't help him get a KTM contract again, so that's irrelevant. But don't you feel like I don't look at him as a third-year pro? No?
No, I don't, because was it the first year he only raced one race? And
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Same thing we're talking about. It kind of similar to the Kitchen thing. A lot of hype, but it's like he's barely really raced. He doesn't have that many of these under his belt. It's just also that when you also step back and go, wait, he's been on a 3-year contract with Red Bull KTM, you also think at the same time there's got to be a lot of pressure involved.
You Kitchen people manage to work Kitchen into every conversation as well. I've noticed that. That's also what I've noticed
I almost thought about working into one of our 450 episodes, but I just couldn't find
I have
a way.
noticed that you Kitchen hype people manage to worm him into everything as well. I have figured that out.
I'll talk about him on the East Coast even when he's not on the East Coast.
Well, maybe the conversation would be different if he's on East Coast because that is weaker. So maybe I would understand more in that instance. 2 things before we go. Your main event winners for the West Coast. Not many rounds. A lot of good riders who will be wanting to win. I will go Jett wins a main event. Faulkner wins a main event. See, it's tough because I kind of feel like that's already used them all up. I said Robertson would win.
But
so
now you're going to backpedal.
I guess I've got to back that up.
You're committed.
I think, did I say he would win or did I say that? I think I said I'd be disappointed if he didn't.
Yes.
Okay, so he'll be close.
Did you give yourself an out there?
Yeah, I will. He'll be close. He'll be really close, really, really close, and it'll be great, and we'll all be very happy. Jett wins, Faulkner wins, McAdoo wins, and that's it.
I'm going to be very disappointing.
I swear to God, if you say Kitchen.
No, I'm not. I'm not going that crazy. I said again, I just think podiums for him, thirds. I'm just going to go with Austin and Jett only. I don't think Cam wins against those two unless something happens to both of them in the same race. That's nothing against Cam. I just really think that Jett and Austin are that tick above.
But he was good last year before he got injured.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like that's a bit of a disservice.
It might be, but I'm sticking with it. I'll probably be wrong, but I'm sticking with it.
Like we mentioned, the West Coast is really deep. A lot of good riders. You get a lot of good privateers over here as well because a lot of lower budget teams stick to West Coast, so the field gets padded out for that reason. Give me your biggest surprise, not to get on a podium, not to win, not to do something spectacular, but just someone who no one will talk about, and then it's like, oh, they did reasonably well.
Number 69 in the program, number 1 in your heart, Filthy Phil Nicoletti is my surprise.
Qualify that, and what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you thinking?
I think of all the boys kind of on that North Carolina, South Carolina area, the Club MX group, the Phoenix Racing, those kind of guys. From what I've seen, Phil is top of the class of that group right now, to a pretty good margin, enough that I think Phil can be on the podium at a couple like 2 or 3 races. It wouldn't shock me if he can run podium to 4th and 5th. I actually think he'll outperform his teammate this year is Enzo Lopes on West Coast. I think Enzo was a surprise last year. I think Phil will outperform Enzo. I think he will be the best non-factory 250 level guy, but I think he will finish the points for the year inside the top 5.
I will basically copy and paste everything you just said and apply it to Max Anstey, which I hate to do because everyone's going to immediately hear my voice and presume I'm doing that because he's British, but I really don't care about that at all. But I think we saw in World Supercross that he gave McElrath a really good run there. McElrath is a great rider. That's a good bar to test him against. He was solid in 450 Supercross on the edge of the top 10 more often than not. If you're on the edge of the top 10 in 450s, that would normally translate to a good 250 result. No one's talking about him, so I think that he will surprise people. I would have definitely said podiums and all of that good stuff, but the West Coast has ended up being so deep that I think that will be difficult for a lot of people. But I definitely think that it will come round 4, people will look at the results and be like, oh, I forgot he exists, I forgot he's here, but look at him, he's doing quite well.
I would agree with that.
That's good. I'm glad we agreed. That wraps up our preview portion of the shows, because tomorrow at 12 p.m. PST is our final episode 5 of the 2023 Monster Energy Supercross preview shows on Vital MX, presented by Yoshimura, where we will be doing all of our real predictions, title picks, surprises, disappointments, any other categories that I can think of. So that's where things will get a little heated, a little over the top, a little angry. So we'll hash all of that out tomorrow, final episode at 12 p.m. PST. We will see you then. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.